All right, guys, so down here in the hold, we're just lining up our bearings. Well, actually, this one's already lined up, this bearing block here. Dad's here in the aft hold, kind of getting this one worked out. So we hadn't yet fabricated this one, just the base plate on it. So it's actually kind of hard to really work out where it would end up. So it's something we can get around to doing.
Yeah, I think it was important to get this line pulled here and make sure that we had our dimensions and everything straight. So we just have a little black mark on this yellow string line here. This is the length of the shaft. That's where the face will end, and then this coupling for the tail shaft meets, and so we can kind of get the distance between this and the bearing. We're just going to give it like 4 inches or something. It's not really critical. And now it's just a matter of getting the block underneath here like fabricated and attached to this plate. So this is a piece of 1/4-inch laminate, and there's actually a fair amount of flex to it. Like, you know, if you put it across something, and you can bend it quite a bit. So it needs to be rigid enough to carry the weight of the shaft and the couplings and everything. So it's pretty important. So this is the approximate position. It's much lower back here, of course, because of the slant of the hull. But we're sitting pretty level. We're on the hard right now, by the way, so we're in the boat yard, and the vessel is actually sitting pretty level. The bottom of the keel is level with the ground, and the rub rails look pretty good in relation to everything. And so there's quite a slant to the shaft alley itself here.
Yeah.
So we won't have collecting water back here. Everything should drain forward and pool up there. And even at like a 3-inch depth of water in here, that's well over 60 or 70 gallons of water in the shaft alley, which, you know, you should never really have that much in there.
Yeah, it's good to keep it regularly pumped. So
yeah.
Don't go sloshing around and whatnot.
Yep. So I would say that if a guy didn't pump his vessel for several weeks, you might end up with that much, depending on how much your stuffing box is dripping. So the stuffing box is where the shaft goes through the shaft alley, through the bulkhead, into the shaft log, and out the back of the vessel. For those of you who don't know, it creates a watertight sealing surface between the inside of the boat and the outside seawater. And unless you have a dripless shaft, they're actually made to drip like a drop every second or two, depending on what type of packing you're using. So we're already on the forward bearing block now.
Yeah, so we just mixed up some juice. We're just about to glue this in. Got a little bit of putty fill to do on the sides. You know, can't always have perfect fit. And anyways, yeah, I guess that's it. Can't always have a perfect fit. It's not very much anyways.
Yeah. No, not for this, because so much changed.
Yeah.
Even the addition of gel coat changes stuff substantially, but
yeah.
So we have this roughly aligned, and once we get some resin mixed up and coat these surfaces and get the putty in place, then we'll come back in and we'll get this aligned like as close as we can. One of the nice things about the split bearing is the split line is actually right in the center of the bearing itself, which is convenient for a couple of reasons. Number one, we can use it to align it this way, but number two, if we turn this, we can also use it to align this way. And just by tipping this a little bit, we're going to get it really close, which isn't critical because this is a ball and socket right here. The bearing cartridge actually rides inside of this. This is a pillow block, essentially, and pillow blocks are self-aligning. But there's about a 7 degree, I think, on this that it can be off. But the straighter it is, just the better. So we'll make it as straight as possible. And so that makes it pretty convenient to actually line this up, and we'll do the same with the back one there.
Yeah,
So,
very nice.
yeah, so we're ready to get this glued in, I guess, or you are.
Yep.
And I'll just be here for this assist. I'm gonna continue, I guess, trying to work out what to do with this and working on my fiberglass tee that I made. I gotta get some holes drilled in it so I can start getting stuff aligned in the engine room. So lots going on, lots coming together. Super happy.
Yeah, exciting times.
Mm-hmm.
All right, get going.
All right, guys. Got the sides puttied up here, so go ahead and stick this thing on and see how much of a mess we can make. Oh, hold on.
How you doing, bud?
Pretty good.
Ready for an assist?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Right there, so looks like we got the gap filled pretty well. We'll just scrape this other stuff off and try and jam it in from underneath once we get it propped in with a couple of screws. Probably just do a screw in each corner and kind of keep it in position while I fiddle around with putty. A careful touch is required. Little broken knuckle syndrome, the hand hammer.
What if I just poke a little hole on each side here, and then we just tap it up?
Yep.
So just like this, right? And I think as long as these are close, we'll be able to like bend it a little bit.
So
it's just shy of
like
6.
each side, put a screw and then
6.
tap it up and brace with a clamp seam?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Because the screws will move and give a little bit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And also up here, we probably have a pretty good chance of getting them out. Right now I have this pinched over here with that wood, and that's probably gonna get glued in there and be a big hassle
Okay.
trying to get out. So we'll just try that first, huh?
Mm-hmm. There seems good.
I think it's pretty even
pretty
right
good.
now too.
Yeah.
So maybe if
So
I
just
could
go
do the
another
same
one.
here.
We'll keep it. Yeah, keep it in line that way.
Hopefully. Yeah. Probably good.
Well, this is exciting. It looks good.
Yeah.
Looks real good.
Hey, what you got there?
Oh yeah, just getting ready to line the shaft up, I guess. I got this little trim piece, I guess you might call it, to glue in. Seal off that hole where we drilled through the foam and the old bulkhead. Pretty rough looking. Let's seal up that foam right there. So just got a nice little piece that we molded up one day. Just a couple of PVC spacers right there to center it on the shaft. Now that we have our bearing block in place, and well, our other bearing block is lined up, so we removed our string line, and now we're ready to go ahead and put this over where it belongs, get this glued in, and I think that we'll be able to start putting stuff together. Like
Yeah.
the final assembly is very close.
Gotta get these two shafts in, we'll be rolling.
Yeah, then we can get the bearings, the bearing mounts, I guess the pedestal mount in place on both of them. That one needs some gel coat, but that's no big deal. And get the bearings in place. We might have to move this one. I think it might be off a little bit. We'll see. We put it on before we did the block with the intention of just drying the block up to it, holding it in place while the glue set, but plans changed and we didn't do that. No big deal. Just take a minute to loosen it up and readjust the race. And that's fine anyways, because we still need to torque it down. And got a torque wrench in the mail a couple days ago, so we're ready to go on that. So yeah, things are looking good.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. Yeah, so we're just gonna throw the shaft and this little cradle right here. It's just got a little hydraulic jack underneath it, and then slide it forward. When you're ready.
The cradle, yeah?
Yep. Okay.
Centered up there, but not back here.
No, it's not centered up here. It's quite uncentered up here.
But like my end needs to swing this way, so.
Well, maybe my end needs to swing this way.
Coming through.
That's good.
No,
I got it.
Okay.
I guess. We'll just use this little bottle jack here. Slide that other strap to, no, the back one.
Slide it. Where?
I'll slide it back. There you go. Come on, a crank. Lovely. Trying to get this,
Fed into the hole.
well, this fitting past, really. Let's see, so, yeah, I guess we just need to come down back there first, huh?
Okay.
Let's just get this, just push that forward and hold it. Yeah, just hold it right there for a sec. Okay. So,
Should be, it's split in 3 back here, so just come back and paint up this green line, I guess.
let's just use these blocks. It'll be easier to deal with.
Yeah. So that was a slow fiddly part. Taking stuff slow, don't want to cause damage to anything.
Especially our fingers.
Yeah.
I just sent Tristan down to the engine room. He's gonna let us know when this shaft is aligned with the bore of the coupling. We don't need to actually put it in and tap it in really just get it right up to the front of it. That'll be close enough. We have probably, I want to say about a 1/4 inch clearance on that little piece that we're lining up and fitting right now. And once the shaft is just close to being its final position, we just have a little sleeve on there to center it up, and we'll get some resin and some putty on there and smash it into place, and it'll be glued in.
We lowered our tail shaft down here this morning. It was pretty uneventful. Just lowered it down by hand, didn't use any winches or anything, so.
Yeah, it's quite a bit lighter than the other one, so we were just kind of hand lined it down, and it went really smoothly. Wasn't much to capture, so.
Yep. So it's a pretty big day today. We're gonna stick our tail shaft into the stern tube and start getting this running gear back together.
All right, ready guys?
Yep, we are ready.
All right, we don't need to lift like,
Yeah, just evenly and barely any, right?
yeah, just enough to clear these blocks, okay?
Yep. Slowly. Okay, T's on his block down here, Dad.
Okay.
Go again.
There we go. Oh. Alrighty, well that should be more or
Nearly
less
there.
out, so I think we should like make a few quick assessments here. Okay, well, so that should be like pretty close to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like it should be extending out from behind. Let me grab a tape measure and see how much room we have to work with.
Let's go for a
Come
little
along.
adventure. Hey, now that shaft is out of the way, it's a bit more accessible down there. Not really accessible, but less stuff to trip over.
Comfortable to move around, huh?
Yeah, you can just put that. Otherwise, we're going to be devastated.
I don't even see it. It's not even there.
Wait. I was going to say, that'll be devastating.
Oh, we
even
have
more
lots
so.
of room here. I remember there was like an awful lot of room back here, huh?
Yeah.
So 22 inches.
14 to go.
Oh, you didn't
Up
measure
there.
to the bearing block though, did you? But
No,
we'll be
I
all right.
measured to like the... Oh, right. Yeah.
So we have 22 inches.
22 inches. How wide is that hub on the prop? Doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
Yep. Oh yeah. Here's our, I guess, work back here. Got that gel coated last night. Looks pretty good. We'll put the Cutlass bearing housing on, and then we'll get some anti-fouling paint spread over the gel coat part of it. It'll look good.
Yeah. Should look real good. Okay, well, now I guess we can just take this off, huh?
Or we leave it on,
Well,
for in case we gotta take it. Well, we do have to take it back out.
I'm gonna take it off enough to get this Cutlass on.
Yeah.
We'll just bring it back just to cover the threads, and then it's not
Yeah.
chewing up the rubber. Oh boy, this stuff like really sticky.
Duct tape,
Boing.
courtesy of Michael, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Michael. It left some residue. I'll have to clean that off.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So shiny.
Yeah, it sure is. So that's just on the taper right there anyways. So, I guess we can toss this thing on there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Toss it. Right?
Yep.
Is there any reason? I
No.
think so. Oh. Tristan, go grab the phone for me, will ya?
The phone?
My phone.
Oh, grab a knife while you're at it. You can trim this back. Here.
I think it's fine like that. That'll be enough.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, let's throw this on there, huh? Oh, did you want to see Tristan?
No.
He doesn't care. Doing. No. Maybe that is too big.
Take it off for a moment.
Yeah. I don't wanna. These threads are kind of sharp.
Need a knife after all?
Yeah.
Grab a knife, T.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's easier. Just to.
Cut it back to right there.
Yeah, just to where it'll start, and we'll be fine. It's just the last little inch, a few inches.
So on to another little fiddly part, but like it's a big item on our list, so this is pretty exciting, at least for us.
Yeah, after today, this will be pretty much done, other than maybe just adding a few shims underneath the bearings. But we should be able to get those all.
Yeah. Okay, but Instagram.
Of course,
Instagram.
we should be able to get the bearings all positioned to their where they're gonna sit on the bearing blocks. See here in a while if we have to move the other one or not. I think it's pretty close. There we go. Nice.
Do you want it pulled out? It might need pulled out just a hair more.
Nope, it's good. It's just gonna slide in there. Just like that.
Seems a little short.
Yeah, it's gonna be a problem. That's definitely gonna be a problem.
Bottoms. Those two are the bottoms. It doesn't matter. But they were just threading on nicely on the bottom.
Really?
I didn't try the other spots, but that's the left side.
Oh my, how do you know this?
Because I put it together
I had a
twice.
50-50 chance.
That one's the only little bit of gummy-ish.
So just finger tight on these will be fine. Barely room for jam nuts now, huh?
Yep. I'll have to, thread lock it or Just squirt some 5200 on it.
Yeah, I mean, like, in reality, these shouldn't come off anyways. So there's probably no reason to really tighten these up. I'm just gonna give them a little snug here. That'll be fine. All right, well, that is good. For now, we're gonna, we'll bring the shaft back a little bit more. I should have probably brought a strap and just lift up back here too. Maybe Tristan can throw that down to me.
Mm-hmm.
And,
keep it from rubbing on the rubber.
Yeah.
So much. Okay, so we'll go up in.
So if you guys can just like lift on that end a little bit. I just need about an inch here. Tell me when you're ready. Okay. Go ahead, a little more. Yep. Okay, a little more. Doesn't want to move, huh? This is where it gets tight in the Cutlass, probably. What's that? I'll come up there. Just give me a minute.
All right. Well, this is toward the evening now. As usual, stuff doesn't go like together, plug and play like a USB or something would in a computer. But
It's a little
you
bit
know
slow
what?
going.
It is slow going, but you gotta take your time to make sure everything's right. So
Yeah, we're definitely no experts at shaft alignment, so we're just kind of learning as we go along, bungling along, as we like to say. And well, at least we have the couplings back on, or two of them, so that's a start. We got the coupling on in the engine room earlier, and then we just kind of roughly measured the shaft where it should be on that forward bearing block, centered it, took a couple quick measurements off the face of the flange to the face of the reduction gear, and it's just about right there. Roughly measured in the middle, we were about a thou off. Of course, that doesn't really mean a whole lot because we're just going off these stringers right here. No one says that they're perfect. And up and down, we were very close to about 20 thou. 20 thou tight on the bottom, which can probably be attributed to just the amount of sag in the shaft. Now, you wouldn't think a piece of 2.5 inch steel sags a lot, but believe me, it does.
yeah, if you have a clear sight line down the shaft, you can actually see the bend. Just
Yeah.
the sag in it.
And so we'll have to try and determine that here in a little while, I think, to do that. We figured if we just left the far end resting on the bulkhead, it's just in a little bit from the coupling, so it shouldn't throw the measurements off too much. We'll cradle this end with our little hydraulic jack, and we'll put a piece of paper underneath that bearing block right there. And then we'll set up our dial indicator here and zero it. And then we'll just start lifting, and when we can pull that piece of paper out from underneath, we know that there's no more weight on that center bearing block, and we'll just measure the distance that it raises up here, and if we take half of that measurement, we should be pretty close.
Yeah, be able to determine the amount of sag. At least that's
I think
kind of our
that's
theory.
right. Now, if anybody else has any ideas on that, please share in the comments.
Yeah.
But
We have a relatively flat horizontal shaft, so like not really any gravity to take into account as far as it being like more like this, because that would kind of change things, I would think.
it would, yeah. The more vertical you go with it, the less sag it's going to have.
Yep.
So, yeah. So we're pretty excited. We're moving right along here. we might have to do a little bit of wiggling in the back. We might have to actually bore out the holes a little bit on the Cutlass bearing housing. It's no big deal. It might be off a little bit. This is definitely off quite a bit right here. Once again, it's not a big deal because our intention was that, you know, these holes right here are sacrificial. We're gonna bore these out. One thing we're really glad that we did do was wait and not go off this original stuffing box because I think it was off. Just thinking back to the alignment of these shaft, it seemed like that tail shaft was always kind of off center in the shaft alley, and probably here too. And now it makes a lot more sense. And so while we did reference it at one point, I'm glad that we didn't do it and set these bearing blocks by it before getting pulled out of the water. We waited and we set up our little jig on our coupling for the engine and the Cutlass bearing housing, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think that these bearing blocks would be way off.
Mm-hmm.
As it is, these bearing blocks are a little bit low, but that's exactly what we wanted. We're guessing they're probably about maybe 10 thou low. And we'll just make up that difference with shims and maybe even a layer or two of gel coat, and that'll keep our shim pack down. But that's basically what you want, is to be able to shim something up. And we picked up a assortment of shims, and so we'll be able to build that pack up to go underneath. So right now, we're just gonna basically just drive this coupling on. You can just whack it on with the hammer. We got the keyway in here, so it'll guide itself in, and once that's done, we're going to we'll slide this guy forward again, back into place, and even them up. We've already have this resting on the bearing up forward, so that's pretty close, and we're just gonna start working these together. The first thing that we need to do is bolt these up, and then that way we know that these shafts are aligned side to side and up and down. And then we'll work on the bearings, and then the last thing that we'll do is if we have to realign the engine a little bit, there's lifting pads on it that you can tip it up and side to side, so we'll do that last on that end. And same back here, we might have to mess with that Cutlass bearing a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. If we have to open up one of the holes or all of the holes a little bit to get it in the right position, and then we'll just do the same thing. We'll make a little pad, dump a bunch of putty on there, and put it back in place and bolt it down on the shaft, having the shaft hold it in place, and it'll be just right.
Yeah.
So we got a good game plan here. Let's tap this guy home. That'll do it. Got it, Matt. Okay. Yeah, sure. Good, right there. All right. Well, now to go rustle up some bolts, and let's see. So these both have a female pilot on them. We had a little ring that was machined that fits inside here. That's important to make sure that these run concentric. If you only relied on these bolt holes, it'd be very, very hard to align this and get those bolts tight without just moving it just a fraction of an inch. If these flanges are even off center from each other like 1 thou, you're gonna have like oscillation in your shaft, and that's a very bad thing. We had this machined up with our other parts. Just a very simple ring. It's just a little less than ½ inch. I think, I want to say we had them machine it to like 470 thou or something like that. This is approximately 1/4 inch on these. So this guy will just go in like that. See, it fits very nicely. The other end that mates up with the twin disc, that's the reduction gear, or the equivalent of a transmission in a car. It also has a female on the shaft, but then the twin disc has a male pilot. So same thing, when you put them together, you know that they're perfectly lined. And then when you actually go to align them, we'll be looking at the distance between the two faces, top and bottom, side to side. You want those to match up nice and closely if possible. Right, Matt?
Mm-hmm. Pull it back here.
If I can. There we go. Very, very good. Nice. So we're not checking alignment right here, but if you were to do that, you would use a feeler gauge and you would go around and check this. Generally speaking, anything over 3 thou, you want to try and get it figured out and get it closer. Like 3 thou and under, I should say, is ideal. Anything over 3 thou, you want to be adjusting your engine or whatever you need to do. In most instances, that's actually where you would be adjusting a shaft, especially for like one that's existing and you're just replacing the shaft, but you're not messing, say, with the strut or the Cutlass bearing housing. In our case, we've already moved that and we can alter that, so that's going to help us out a little bit, I think. So we're going to get these bolted up tight, and then we are going to, what are we going to do? I guess we're going to get it pushed up against the engine and check the alignment there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll be checking it also in the back, the Cutlass housing. So now some more fiddly parts.
Yep.
So let's start with some bolts. We need some bolts, Tristan.
Bolts.
In that drawer inside. So let's see, it looks like I need to, this could just go down just a touch right here. Yeah. Just a touch. Okay. Okay, so it may be a little hard to see down here, but here's the intermediate shaft and the coupling. This is the coupling that joins the shaft, and then this is another coupling off the transmission, or on a boat it's a reduction gear. So there's a small pilot on the inside that align these two, and we'll make them concentric to ensure that they're running true to each other. And so as we lift the shaft up and down in the fish hold, if this were the face of the coupling, as you lift that shaft up and down, this will tip back and forth. Same thing as you go side to side, it will change this way. And so what we're doing is we're measuring the gap right here. So these are drawn up close but not tight. My bolts are still loose, so I know that one's not binding or anything. And we just use a set of feeler gauges, so these come in a different range of thicknesses. On the thick side it's 25 thou. On the thinnest side, I think this set has one that's 2 thou. So that's 2/1000ths of an inch. Ideally, we want to be within 3,000. So that's just slightly thinner than a piece of copy paper. A piece of copy paper is roughly about 4 thou. So we want this tolerance right here to be that. So what we do is we just start out with a set of them, and right now our gap is a little loose on the bottom and it's tight on the top. We have it shimmed up too high now in the fish hold. So that's what we've been working on, is just adjusting those shims and trying to get it kind of dialed in. As we move up the coupling where it meets the tail shaft, that actually influences this, even though there is a bearing in between them. So that's why we're bolting that up next. But basically, for instance, we would take, I think the sides are about 16 thou right now. So we grab one 16 thou of an inch, and we can come in here. Maybe you can see if I like sneak it right through here. Nope, there's got to be a hose in the way. There we go. Take our feeler gauge. I'm looking through the camera, so hopefully I can get the shot here. And you just insert it in the crack. And what you want is to feel just like some slight drag and not really any wiggle room. It should go in, but when you pull it, it should be dragging slightly both ways. And then you know that you have pretty much the right feeler gauge for that gap. And then you just go around and you check it on each side and top to bottom. It'll more or less self-center itself side to side, but the top and bottom are pretty critical. And so that's what we're basically working on right now. And then when we get closer, once we have those locked down and we have the angle of the shaft set right, then we'll just adjust it side to side and lock the bearings down. So that's kind of what we're doing here. It takes a fair amount of shimming back there to actually move this. We were about 6 thou off between the two, the top and bottom, and we added some shims, and then it shifted it over a little too much. And so I just took a couple of pieces of fiberglass laminate and ground them down a little bit thinner than the ones that we have in there. We'll pop those in there and we'll kind of readjust it. And then as we get the back bearing in and those two bolted together, it should help take some of that play out of that. So you just kind of gotta start at one end and work your way back, I guess. And the engine is basically kind of our baseline. That's what we're adjusting the shaft to right now. The good thing is that we did do a bore sight with a string line before we glued our bearing blocks into place. In looking back, I'm really glad that we did, or I think we would have been in trouble. I think we would have been off a pretty significant amount. Right now we have a couple of blocks in there. They're what, 200 thou each?
I think, yeah.
And they're too tall. And so I just, like I say, knocked a couple down to probably half that thickness. We're going to stick them in there, and then we'll come check this alignment again. But had we just gone off the original stuffing box like we did earlier in some past videos, just kind of roughly lining things up, had we done that, we would have been like way off. That stuffing box ends up, it's about probably 3/16 low from where we thought it was supposed to be. So that would have put our bearing blocks high, and we would have had a substantial amount of grinding to do down there with the shaft in our way and bearings in our way.
Yep.
And things would be very complicated. So I'm glad that we waited till we got to the yard and made up a quick jig and got that string line in there, because that basically got us from point A to point B, and we set our bearing blocks in between. And they will need to be shimmed, but that's normal.
All right, so down here in the hold again, here at the coupling, you can see we got our pilot ring in here. So get these two couplings together and get a couple bolts in.
Yeah. We're gonna put a tiny dab of Never Seas on these. We're not gonna lube them up too much right now, but just a little dab, because the zinc finish on these is a little bit rough, and we want a tiny bit of lubrication so we don't end up galling these together.
Question is, do you put any inside there?
So my feeling with this is that we'll probably never ever take it apart.
Yeah.
One of the problem with using this stuff is it actually puts a film in there, and inside it can make it, well, it's just kind of like a piston filled with liquid. It makes it hard to close and drop tight. If there's a film on here, it can actually throw off the alignment a little bit. Just a film of oil is like 1 thou of thickness. So maybe we'll do that before final assembly. We'll see. But I think right now it's best just to go dry.
Okay.
Yeah. We kind of meant to take these in and have these couplings metallized, but it just didn't work out. Our timing was off, and we weren't really sure about our budget at the time. And now it's time to get them installed. So they're just going to have to be good with paint.
Yep.
So these are fine thread. I don't know what size these are. I believe they're 5/8. Maybe they're 3/4. I'll have to look. They're 5/8. We're just gonna put 3 on for now, and that will space them evenly. So we're not gonna draw this up tight because we wanna measure the gap on this too. And it's gonna help us kind of work out the bearing heights. So we'll just get it pretty close. I'll just snug this one a bit more, and we'll give this shaft a spin. Get a bolt on the bottom. Same thing, we're just making them even, so it's at 120 degrees apart, I guess. Thereabouts. If my math is right. So we have this just loosely bolted up right now. Like I say, we're leaving a gap in here so we can measure this alignment, but here's just a good example of the difference on the face. So these aren't parallel with each other yet, so you can see it's tight over here. It's very loose over here. So as we get this alignment worked out, we'll just be measuring that with a pair of feeler gauges. These are my old crusty, rusty ones, but you just basically just slip them in that crack and pick the appropriate size, and then you can work your way around and even that all up until they're the same. If we can get everything within about 3 thou of each other, that's pretty awesome. So that's kind of where you want to be, the maximum distance to be out of alignment. And once that's all nice and even, then you know that your alignment is good. We know that because when you purchase shafts like this, they put the coupling on the shaft, they stamp the end so you don't mix up the sides, and it's called a fit and face. So they'll have the shaft chucked up in the lathe, they'll put the coupling on it, and then they'll face that coupling, and then you know that it's perfectly perpendicular to the shaft and that there's no run out on the face of these couplings, because that's your surface that you bolt up to your reduction gear or to another coupling, and so you want those faces to be true to each other and running true to the shaft with no run out. So now it's just a matter of we'll get this other bearing in place, and then it's just a matter of side to side. It's no big deal because we can finish that last, but it's the up and down right now that we're going to be working on, and we'll get all these shimmed around and make sure that all these couplings are lined up straight.